Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. In this video, I will show you how people pick and choose evidence when they make a point or arguments to support their claims. And that is a very serious thing here because it's about the former Azov regiment battalion commanders who returned to the front to fight the Russians again. And I will show you just by the title of this article coming from the New Voice of Ukraine how these guys talk about the issue halfway from the middle point of the whole situation. So they will pick from here, and their history, their argument starts from here, there. They don't take it from here. They take it from here. They don't follow the chronology and say, okay, how did it all start? And you say, okay, it started from here, and take the relevant information and you make the point. No, they start from the middle. I'm going to show you here. And I'm going to discuss what could be the, obviously, consequences of these guys returning to the front, and I don't think the Russians will spare them the next time. That's my... all right, I can say it. Let's go and see. The New Voice of Ukraine. Mariupol commanders, first, they're Mariupol commanders, okay, can return to the front to fight. Can. There is no ban. You hear this? There is no ban, says National Guard commander. Well, this is half. It's mid. But how did you get to Ukraine? Let's go back a little. I don't know, a few pieces of evidence back. How did you get there? So they say we can return to the front. There's no ban. Yeah, but how do you return to the front? Well, we are in Ukraine and we're gonna just go over there and fight. Yeah, but how come you're in Ukraine? Well, because we were released by Erdogan to Zelensky. From where? From Istanbul. What were you doing in Istanbul? We were under the protection of Erdogan. Okay, how did you get to be under the protection of Erdogan? Well, we were released by the Russians in a prisoner swap. Okay, and what were the terms? There's no ban in me being on the front, okay? So it goes back to that. No, it was an understanding that you guys are going to be kept in Turkey by Erdogan until the war ends, hostilities in Ukraine, and then you can return not to the front, to Ukraine. So you actually violated the understanding that whatever was discussed and I'm pretty sure signed somewhere, that you cannot return to Ukraine until the war is over. And then what? There will be no war to fight in. Correct. So you see, if you start where a little bit further, then you understand that these guys should not even be there. On the other hand, you can say, well, just a second, shouldn't be no war. Yeah, we're gonna go deeper than that. Okay, should be no Zelensky government. How come? Well, because Zelensky wouldn't have been elected if in 2014 the legitimate government of Ukraine, Viktor Yanukovych, was toppled through a coup. Supported by the lovers of democracy, right? 2014. And Zelensky would, if he would have implemented as he was supposed to by the treaties, by Minsk Agreements 1 and 2, no war. You didn't. This is it. So you see, and then you go deeper and deeper. You want to go further down the chronology? Okay, NATO was supposed to not to expand eastward. Well, we do whatever we want. Well, so do the Russians now. Okay, NATO stayed on and expanded. The Russians told them, the Soviets told them when they were still Soviet Union, we're going to agree with this, but no. And Baker said what? With no inch NATO expansion to east. And then when the Russians say, hey, do you remember that one? Do you have anything signed? Okay. It's like you have your wife and you say, and say, well, you cheated on me. Yeah, but was I not supposed to? Do you have anything signed? Do we have anything signed? Wait a fucking minute. You know what I mean? So you don't have to sign, and you're not gonna do this. Sign. Here's the attorney with in front of me, or the whatever. You know, we will sign this document. Pay $3,000 for it or something. You don't need certain things. You know, it's an assurance. If it's a verbal, it's called a German gentleman agreement. And these guys are no gentlemen. proven fact. So here we have this situation where these guys say, well, we can, what's going on, a patrol, the Russians are invading or something. It seems like they're just starting from the middle. But hey, let's look into the article and see what evidence or how they is going to discuss this situation, because they call it Mariupol commanders, and they're going to call it nationalist group and all that, instead of calling it Nazi organization, as they used to call them before the Russian invasion, but they changed. But this is the Ukrainians, so yeah, they will cover, obviously. The senior officers of the former Mariupol garrison, including Ukraine's Azov regiment, Lieutenant Colonel Denis Prokopenko, are permitted, by whom, to return to the front to fight Russian invasions. When they're going to get caught again by the Russians, I think the Russians will eliminate them on the spot if they find out these guys are those guys. Why? Personally, if you say that Gigi is a rapist and so on, and you get him, you're not going to release him back in a society after you claim that person is a rapist. Otherwise, you agree that he is not. So this is what the Russians did with this Azov battalion that they called Nazis. That's how they called them. So when they captured these guys in Mariupol, actually it was the Chechens who got them. They fought over there hard. When they got him, what was the normal course of events? You put them on trial, you show evidence, and you convict them, and you put them in prison. And that would have been. No, they took them, and then they swapped them for 50 Russians. What? That means, what's going on here? You don't do that with a guilty person. They say, you stay over there in Turkey until the end of the Ukraine war, and then you let them come back as Nazis. That means they're not what you say they are, to say the least. So that was a weasel move. You don't do that unless, why are you telling me? Nobody believed anymore. If they were, as you say, it's like, imagine these guys after the Second World War would have released all this. Let's say they caught Heinrich Himmler, and say, okay, we're going to let you go now, it's fine. Or, I don't know, Hermann Göring, oh, you're fine to go. Or maybe even the guy that, in the bunker, oh, it's okay, do you think, why? It means everything you said is nothing. That doesn't make sense. It needs to be some punishment somewhere for things that you claim that happened. I didn't like that, to be honest with you. I don't think it was kosher. So this was confirmed by the commander of the National Guard, Colonel Alexander Pivnenko, in an interview with New Voice of Ukraine's sister publication, Ukrainska Pravda. Sister, why not brother? The Azov regiment is a unit of Ukrainian National Guard. That's the definition, okay? Not a Nazi, nothing like that. But this is their definition, so yeah. So, Denis defended Mariupol. They are preparing for battle and will perform tasks like everyone else, Pivnenko said. So, Pivnenko added that there was no ban on the Azov commanders returning to the front, and that they could be back in battle within a month. Yeah, there's no ban to return to the front, but there should be no front. You shouldn't be not in Ukraine. I already talked about that. So, nevertheless, they tell you here that the Mariupol garrison commanders were captured by the Russians during the seizure of the port city of Mariupol in May 2022. The 5 commanders were held. This is their version of events, okay? So bear with me. The 5 commanders were held captive by the Russians and then held in Turkey under a prisoner exchange deal brokered by Ankara. Later, they were released and traveled back to Ukraine with Zelensky. He's Ukrainian, yes, okay. After the Ukrainian head of state visited Turkey in July 8. Russia then accused Ukraine and Turkey of violating the terms of the prisoner exchange deal. And what are you saying about that? You see, they're not going to say anything down here like, but it was not an agreement, it was not the terms, nothing. They don't say it. It's just Russia accused them. But since we know Russia is bad, nobody trusts Russia. And they tell us the 5 Mariupol garrison commanders who returned where? And these are the ones, we don't even care about them. Personally, I don't have a dog in the whole thing, so I don't care. The problem is how these guys are forming opinion and how they just pick and choose information. But if you know something, or you know a little bit more than they think you know, you realize it's BS. First, they were not supposed to be in Ukraine. That's first thing, okay? And if they were not supposed to be in a war, I already discussed that one at the beginning of this video. So, nevertheless, they're going to go back. And then I don't want to hear the Russians saying anything about it. Because I will return to, why did you send them to, you agreed to that swap of prisoners? That's where that bothers me. You don't release someone who says a criminal back into the, you give it to Erdogan. And besides, over there, somewhere it was, they stayed 9 months. Let me show you. So they didn't say, because you say maybe it was a certain kind of time that they were supposed to be over there. But then right here, the 9 months in the country after being released from Russian captivity. So they spent more than 9 months in Ukraine. All right. Let's see. Yeah, that's what it was, 9 months. So you can say, well, maybe the agreement stated that a year or 6 months. I don't think you make an agreement on 9 months. I've never heard, you know what, I'm going to give you this loan for 9 months. Usually it's a year, usually it's 2 years, maybe 6 months. They don't go like 9 months. Do you agree with me? Not impossible, very unlikely. Never heard of anything like this. We're going to make a treat me for 9 months. How about 8 months and 3 days? The same here. That's why I know that those guys were released by Erdogan without, violating the understanding. I have no doubt they violated that. Why? These guys did not even bother to say, that's not true, here it is, there was no such a thing. They didn't say that. They say, there's no ban to be on the front. Wait a minute, buddy. It's like, for instance, let's say you catch your wife cheating or your husband cheating, and then you confront them and say, why are you yelling? Don't yell at me. You're very rude. The issue is not me being rude. The issue is you fucking around. The same here. The issue is not being banned to go on the fight the Russians. The problem is you were not supposed to be first swapped, second released by Erdogan. So let's go back, baby doll, to the initial situation. Don't pick wherever you like it and ignore everything else. It's a chronology of events, like in any investigation and so on. So, do I blame anybody? I blame the guys in 2014 when they overthrew the... And not only that, I blame the guys who expanded NATO into East. I mean, it was a ticking bomb. That's what it was, and they all knew. They just wanted to see when the Russians will react, and the Russians reacted when they felt strong, because they could have reacted when it was the first expansion of NATO, which they said something but nothing. They didn't care. They couldn't react, do something about it. They did exactly when NATO was at their front door. Ukraine, right there. I mean, there was Poland and Romania, missiles and so on. NATO, US, NATO, no such a thing, NATO. It's US's little buddies that joined the, how do you call it, pilgrimage, how do you call that, plundering, yeah. But anyway, this is it, my friends. I blame those guys then. NATO should have been discussed with Russia, include Russia in, but you can't. Why? Because it can be only one, United States. That's it. And if it's not in the United States, it's gonna be only one, China. It can be, we're gonna be all together, we're gonna share. No, I have this bigger than yours, I'm in charge. You over there, go and suck it, go. That's how it is. Do you think it's different? Well, I don't think it is, and the evidence proves me right. And that's the same thing in any kind of organization. Say, well, we should all lead. There's not going to be such a thing as we all lead. It's going to be some who's going to be smarter, stronger, tougher, and all that, than everybody else. And then that's going to get charged. It's not going to be equal. We're all the same. We have the whole... No, we're not. We're not. Some of us are better. Some of us are weak or weaker. The environment. Who's guilty? You're guilty. You're not me. Certain things are genetic, so certain things are dictated by the environment and how you cope with that. You can train yourself in becoming a little bit more resilient here, get information here, get knowledge there, expose yourself to certain kind of actions. You get tougher. You go around the block and you know what can happen and what cannot happen. When these guys are telling you something that happened, you know exactly that's a lie, because you know you lived through that. You've been around the block. You say, no, that's not possible. Or, you know, usually that's why they say, oh, this is what's going to happen. You say, well, what are the odds? 1 in 3,000? I mean, if it's like this, I'm not going to drive my car out, because the odds that I get in an accident are less than 1 in 3,000. My friends, these guys are not better than we are. It's just that they have a big megaphone, and most of them are below 86 IQ. And not most of them, 40%. So we look at below 86 IQ, what does that mean? What in clear terms? And you figure out that at least 40% of a population is below 86 IQ. How in the hell do you think a society will function? You have to give them a job to do. Why do you think they have these jobs like, because you got 40% that are below 86 IQ. Look what the military said about the people below 86 IQ, and you're going to realize, wait a second, maybe you become more, I don't want to say inclusive, but tolerant, because you realize, and you wonder why people, when they do a job, they're just trained to all day. What do you expect them to do? Some of them have 55 IQ, or 60 IQ, or 75. What do you think that person is capable of doing? Drink, watch TV, and consume. Like most of them. Not us. We are special, Ed. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.